Hello, all guys, gals, non-binary pals. Welcome to the newest episode of the Noobs and Knockouts podcast. I'm Austin. I'm a knockout, watched a lot of wrestling.
I'm David. I'm a noob. Haven't watched a whole lot of wrestling. Watched even less of ladies wrestling. So I'm real hyped for today.
Yes, today we return to NXT in our quest to follow the era of the four horsewomen as their ascent to the top of the chain at WWE, starting from their time in NXT. Very, very appropriate is literally Charlotte Flair to date when we tape this. Is Charlotte Flair winning the Raw Women's title at Money in the Bank last night? So you know.
Oh shit! Oh, dip. Nice.
Yeah, she's like a 13-time women's champion now.
That doesn't surprise me. She's such a legacy and has the talent to back it up. Like, oh my god.
No, it was a great match.
Oh
but
my
yes,
god.
It is time to continue on. So I don't have a lot to go through and I'll remind everyone of what our format for this is and why that is. But like looking back at what we did last time, it was all about, Charlotte was the new NXT Women's Champion, and right as she won the title, Summer Rae, her former leader in the BFFs, the beautiful fierce females, had come back to NXT, and this led to tensions, and the group completely fell apart, and Charlotte beat Summer Rae to retain the title. It was the first half of what we talked about.
Yep, and then back half we had the climb toward greatness of Bayley and her meeting up with Charlotte to try to get the belt for herself. And though she was not successful, there seems to be a respect established between the two.
Yes, it's a mutual respect situation. They had a great match at NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way, and now we proceed on to the arc to the next TakeOver. While I won't say for spoilers when what exactly the match on that cart on the next TakeOver will be, is we do know is that they set up Sasha Banks as kind of an immediate next challenge at TakeOver. Sasha appeared after the match to attack Bayley, and Charlotte headed her off.
Sasha to me is definitely like the mega heel of all this. She's the one. She's the one that's gone really aggro, and the one who's willing to show active, violent disrespect to the people she does not like. Charlotte feels, I won't quite say an anti-hero, but more of this kind of cold figure. I'm gonna say like lawful neutral sort of type, which makes her come off as very very cold. And sometimes she can be cruel and veer a little into like lawful evil territory. But Sasha, I'm really excited to see what pans out with her, because she seems to be like the main villain of this. And the way we ended last week with her beating up on Bayley after Bayley's match with Charlotte seems like it's going to pay off some pretty crazy dividends narratively.
Yeah, and then of course the question is where does Bayley go from here? After the loss, and then Becky Lynch, the fourth woman of our little thing. She
no longer step dancing.
Nope, she was an Irish river dancer on our first trip through. I can guarantee you she's not that anymore. Nope. So she's got a brand new character direction that we will see on this show. Very excited.
I just love I've probably harped on this last time. I just love the super quick turnaround for Bayley's character, or not Bayley, for
Becky.
Becky, Jesus, for Becky's character of like, yeah, she was an Irish step dancer for like 2 minutes, and then just completely scrapped it. Just like the super quick turnaround to me is hysterical.
Everyone realized it was a bad idea.
I don't know how you didn't realize beforehand, but here we are.
But I guess it took seeing it in action to be like, oh, so this doesn't have any legs. Never mind.
Which is ironic considering, she's step dancing, but whatever.
But yeah, so where are we covering is tonight is we're going from the September 18th episode of NXT all the way to December 11th. at NXT TakeOver R Evolution. And so for how that works for us on our end is that basically we're not going to be watching any single show. We're going to be watching only the women's segments on each show week to week.
Yes.
That's how. So I'm at the end of our part here of the front half. So if you wanted to follow along, obviously that's a lot to do. So I will say is that then just watch NXT TakeOver R Evolution. You could, or even just Google the women's title match from that show. Though I will say it is a really, really good show. Like NXT TakeOver R Evolution is absolutely up there in terms of one of the best NXT takeovers, especially if you're looking at the early years, the very first few set. Like it's a fantastic show on the whole, but definitely the women's title match is very good. If you are looking to watch the whole show legally, as usual, Peacock. Fuck Peacock as a live streaming service, but WWE took that $1 billion, so that's what we get now in America. Yay. Yep. But anyway, it's $5 a month tier for ads, $10 a month tier for not ads. I'm not going to plug it any harder because I'm still pissed at it for sucking. I used to be able to say that WWE Network, last I checked, actually, they flag VPNs now. So I'm not going to recommend that as an option. But if you're one of our viewers that happens to live outside of America, you lucky motherfuckers, you can use the WWE Network, $10 a month. Yep. All righty then. So that is our front half, a solid five-ish minutes, but it is what it is. We can only have so much to talk about. Well, see you guys in the back half.
Hasta luego.
And we are back. We have just finished a whole lot of NXT from the September 18th episode, technically. Vert to the NXT TakeOver R Evolution that was on December 11th, 2014.
Indeed. It kind of cracks me up doing it the way we are because it really throws into stark contrast that we are just, for the most part, watching the same 4 women fight each other just like over and over again. I mean, there are some, you throw in the occasional Alexa Bliss and that one fucking job where they head up against Charlotte, but for the most part, we're just like, we're just cycling through this as many permutations of this as we could possibly get.
Yeah, listen, the NXT women's division at this point in time was very talented, but it wasn't that deep.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It just cracks me up.
That's why I wanted to show the other arc. I guess I'll talk a little bit about it before we move on to the real meaty stuff. Is that like during this, when I was planning out this episode, I did consider showing more of the storyline that's going on with Carmella right now, and she's currently debuting. She's the princess of Staten Island, and she basically got brought into a storyline that men's storyline from a few months prior to this as like the hairdresser for one of the tag teams.
Oh no.
But she got dragged into wrestling bullshit, kayfabe. And she's like, well, fuck, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to wrestle. You know what? And you're going to train me how to do it for dragging me into this. And so they have these vignettes where she's training to wrestle. And then she starts getting in a few matches. And she kind of just basically, it's like quick squash matches during this time period. And that's ultimately that. And I just didn't think we had time to cover much of it in any good detail. But like, I wanted to talk about it because it was kind of a fun, like, secondary women's story going on at the time.
I mean, yeah, I can get why we're not, because already there's like so much going on time-wise and that's kind of disconnected. But like, that sounds fun. Like a fun thing to talk about at some point in the future.
Yeah, it was a fun little thing. But yes, let's go ahead and talk about the Bayley, Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte just wrestling each other for 3 months, and it was great.
These are all really solid matches. Just the consistent work output being done by these 4 women continues to be phenomenal. It's cool too. We kind of had for some reason mirrors are such a fucking visual motif in this thing. I
told you the Oculus mirror has arrived.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to. I always get surprised when these shows do like visual metaphor and shit. but because we get not only some like blatant mirror imagery, but story wise, we get a kind of mirror image going on. Because we have one face turn and one heel turn that kind of
it has to be 2 and 2. It has to
act
be
in opposition to each other.
equally balanced, as all things should be, David.
I was gonna make a forced joke there, like always two there are master and apprentice, but that too.
that also works really well because
I mean, I'm not
it
wrong.
Works really well
especially
for
with
Sasha, how Sasha and Becky go. Yeah, that does fit. The always two, a master and apprentice.
Yeah, exactly. But who is the master and who is the apprentice? Anyway, so what we get here is it starts off pretty standard. We get a Bayley v Alexa match, which is really sweet. It's a face off, and they're being chill to each other, and the commentators are like, "Oh, this is so nice," and this sportsmanship.
Yeah, in a storyline that is there's a lot of bad as we get into the real meat of the plot of this. There's a lot of bad blood fights going down. So it is nice that you get Bayley and Alexa both the lighthearted kind of goody good goods fighting each other, and it was a bit of a rare pairing of a matchup. And Bayley does get the W.
And what's really cool about it too is it's portrayed as totally friendly, which even in like face-off matches we don't always get. Like they high-five each other literally in the middle of a match. I've never seen a match like more explicitly feel like two friends having fun challenging each other in a sport they just both happen to work for. Like that it was just a nice little like oh, that's cute sort of thing. So I appreciated that.
Bayley is on the come up to try to she asks Charlotte to come to the ring and she's like, listen, I let my fans down. I let my mom down. She was in the audience for TakeOver when I lost to you. And she's like, please give me another chance. And Charlotte is like, you didn't let me down. You didn't let anybody down. You gained my respect. True. And while of course she has to be like, I'll beat you again. But she's like, I will let you have another match next week, kid. So I kind of these first couple of episodes that we saw, or was it like an epilogue to the stuff that we watched last time?
Yeah, no.
Kind of a nice little wrap up to where we were at, so we can move on to the next phase.
Yeah, it's cool to see Charlotte be that explicit about her feelings toward Bayley now.
They hugged.
They hug. At one point later on, we'll cover this. I love like the slight awkwardness of their hugs because like Charlotte's clearly like the I don't do feelings type, and Bayley's all like soft girl sort of vibes all only. So seeing Bayley try to be like, can I hug you, and Charlotte kind of being like, yeah, sure, okay. I guess. It's very cute. So redemption arc complete, I suppose, for that friendship. Which is it's wholesome, and a redemption arc I am surprised is following through as kind of fully as it is. I expected there to be to an extent something that went wrong again, but spoiler alert, for pretty much the entirety of what we watched, it's nothing but smooth sailing for Bayley and Charlotte's rekindled friendship, which is really sweet.
I think the fact that they have the heel turn planned in has kind of made them be like, we don't really have room to like add more ambiguity to this.
Yeah, but I appreciate that. Like, I don't know, maybe this is just my like conflict averse nature. I like that they're not like beating the dead horse of like, will they or won't they-ing their friendship. Like it's recovered, and that's that. We're not going for some like weird messy drama bullshit. They're friends again, and it's just gonna remain so. I like that. I was kind of dreading them dragging out some more bullshit, but they did.
No. So the October 2nd episode, we get the Charlotte and Bayley rematch for the NXT Women's title, and it has a different vibe than their first time, mostly because Charlotte gets real vicious like this in this match.
Oh yeah.
They may be friends again, but she was aggressively like that's the story of the match, where she is aggressively attacking Bayley's poor leg.
True. Yeah, no, she's really going after it for this one. She keeps getting Bayley in figure fours, which was painful to watch. I'm just sitting there going, ow, ow, just watching her leg bend like that constantly, just the same attack on her leg over and over again. Why is it
so
always
much,
leg?
so much bending?
Yeah, I don't like
more bending than the Avatar was going on around here.
I don't know how like Bayley out of kayfabe is like physically withstanding that, because I would just be like fucked up after like the first one.
Yeah, no,
God, that looks so rough.
I don't have the strength and stamina to do this athletic stuff.
Charlotte looks like she's putting her back into it. Like it seems legit.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
and that's basically how
that's the whole thing.
Bayley gets her comeback, but she's limping, she's hurt, and that's what allows Charlotte to kind of end up getting the win.
She retains, but it's a respectful retain.
And then from there we move on to that plot's done. That chapter of the book is done. So we move on to October 9th. Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch. This is David's first time getting to see the new Becky Lynch.
Yeah, she came out and it was like gritty realism. Becky Lynch shows up, which I got a nice kick out. She's in all like black now, and she's punk rock alternative whatever. Instead of Irish folk music or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of polar opposite to where she was before.
Yeah, seriously. She watched she read Watchmen, and she's like, well, fuck, I need to do Grimdark now.
No, she read The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh shit, you right. Yeah, the Frank Miller really is what solidified it. That's
actually, you know what? No, she didn't read Frank Miller, because then if she had, then her character would have been a hooker. That's.
See,
so
I feel like
have read Frank Miller.
I feel like her shitty heel turn, could have been a Frank Miller inspired thing of just like, the world sucks and everybody sucks, so I might as well suck too.
I know we're doing a podcast on a very nerdy subject, but sorry to anybody who doesn't read read comic books and doesn't know what we're making here.
This show's tagline should just be Noobs and Knockouts. If we're not too niche for you yet, just you wait.
We can fix that.
Anyway, and yeah, it's cool to see new Becky. She goes really aggro for a lot of it. Again, that kind of grimdark is not only her aesthetic now, physically, but she's going for it in ring too, of going harder against Sasha. And Sasha, of course, is as I remarked in the front half, the vicious predator of this story. So she's fighting back just as hard.
Oh yeah, I'll probably talk more about this when we get to our main event.
Yeah,
here. But like, Sasha's really coming into her own as a character and a performer, and it's like so good to watch.
Yeah, no, her ability to hold her own. I mean, not to say that she ever wasn't holding her own in the ring, but she continues to kind of refine her style. I mean, and that's the cool thing about watching NXT, right? Is like, this is the training leagues, and for as much as like it's the training leagues where now people are performing TV ready, these are still newer performers relatively, and people who are still working to hone their craft. So it's really cool to see the perspective of everybody developing in real time in a way you don't get to see in normal WWE. Characters shift very rapidly. I mean, Becky being the prime example. Styles developed, things emphasized that work, things de-emphasized that don't work, all very quickly and all very visible to the camera. So Becky and Sasha is kind of a great match for that, because they're two of the ones that are affected by this the most, as Sasha kind of keeps getting pushed up and up further to be the arch heel, and Becky finally finds an identity that that legitimizes her.
Right. But Sasha does get the win, and that plays
She does
into,
get the win.
yep.
Becky
And that
tries
plays
valiantly,
yes.
but it's ultimately Sasha getting the dub. And this was for wasn't this still technically for title contendership?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't really
I don't
think
know
it
why
was
I thought that.
it wasn't for anything necessarily, but it plays into what Sasha and Becky talk about later, I think.
Yes.
But it wasn't really an explicit, because then the next week, October 16th, Charlotte and Becky have a non-title match. And, again, Becky very valiantly fighting, but then Charlotte gets the better of her again. That's her third one-on-one win against Becky that I can count. But that leads into what happens later in that episode. That's the more interesting thing to talk about. Is Sasha is at the mirror doing her makeup for reasons, I guess. She's not on the show. The rest of the show, I don't know why, but she's in front of the mirror, and Becky is like, "What you did to," I can't do her accent except to say the disgusting. But what you did to Bayley a couple of weeks ago, that was disgusting.
Bayley was disgusting.
Disgusting.
I'm not great at Irish accents, but yeah.
I mean, yeah. I can do disgusting.
Bayley was disgusting.
Yes. So, and Sasha pushes back on this and is like, "Whatever. Like, who are you to come at me about that, you loser?" Like, and Sasha lays it on the table of like, "I did what I had to do to win, and and that's working. Like, people like you or Bayley, they don't get ahead in life. So by being nice, you get it." And she and she tells Becky to look in the mirror and ask herself what she wants to do. And she leaves, and we get that shot of Becky. She's looking in the mirror, which can only, of course, mean one thing. As we move to October 23rd, before we move on to say it was this, I thought it was a really effective story beat to do. Like, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I mean, it no pun intended, reflects what we had last time. Where we had the conversation between, was it Sasha and Charlotte in the mirror, or
it was Sasha and Summer in the mirror?
Oh, Sasha and Summer in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
We had that conversation as well. The mirror seems to be used in relation to Sasha as an indicator of like pivotal moment in morality. The looking at yourself and kind of recognizing what you truly are, and for both the cases here seems to be a bad guy, or at the very least, they see dissatisfaction when they look in the mirror.
Sasha looked in the mirror and said, "I need to be more of a shithead."
Yeah,
not going far enough around here.
Yep. So it's interesting that they keep bringing that back.
Yeah, they did a really good job of playing into their histories and like stuff that makes sense, because like it'd be easy to kind of write this kind of thing and it kind of not land because you didn't really care too much about what the actual character backstory is. Like, but it's like an easy cliche of like, nice guys finish last. You got to do whatever you want to. You got to do whatever you have to get ahead. That's a bit of a narrative cliche. But like, whether it was fully intentional or just something they kind of like stumbled upon working, it actually works for me here because it plays into their actual histories. In that Sasha, while yes, she did lose to Bayley last time for the #1 contendership, she's kind of on the skyrocket. She's kind of on a meteoric rise. Meanwhile, Bayley, for all of her for respect and happiness and joy, she's 0-2 now for the title, and then Becky is just on a free fall losing streak. So it's like Sasha acts like Sasha has a point in a sense, because yes, the good guys are last right now.
Yeah, seriously,
they're not. And Bayley doesn't have a good rest of our arc here because she, it stops because the story stops focusing so hard on her. Man, she takes some beatings.
She really does. I mean, I wouldn't say the story stops like focusing on her because she's still as much a key player as
Yeah, I
anybody
guess.
else. But like, the focus shifts. This
Mhm.
isn't anymore Bayley, protagonist of reality.
Right.
It's kind of becoming more of an ensemble piece, which I enjoy.
Mhm.
What's really cool about this for me is I like seeing the four personalities clash together. Um, like it's been a build up that we've seen just between these past two times, just because we watched through what, like 2 months per session here.
We've gone from like May to December across our
Jesus,
2
so even
episodes.
more than that.
So yeah, we've watched a long progression here.
Yeah. So it's because it's such a long time, it's obviously truncated for us, but since it's such a
Right.
long time, it's allowed the space to build up to that. Each character has gotten their time to be focused on, time to develop. And now that we have all four of them kind of set up,
Mhm.
it's time to let the four of them, all hold equal
Mhm.
billing and play in the sandbox
Yeah.
together. Um, it's just cool that that we're getting for this being like a historical piece for us of the rise of these four women, the women's revolution. The fact that it was kind of built up to be that, focusing on these four as kind of like the queens of it all. It's just really cool to see for me.
Yeah. We have our time in front of the mirror is over for now.
Mhm.
But next October 23rd, we get Sasha and Bayley in a bit of a rematch, and this is narratively here to establish who is the next challenger for Charlotte. I don't think
Yes.
they say that term explicitly, but like Sasha getting her win back on Bayley is narratively signifying like, okay, it's Sasha's time to shine for
Yep.
this. And after the match, Sasha's doing her thing, which is, of course, beating
Beating up
down
on
on
Bayley.
Bayley.
Yep.
Beating up on Bayley, her favorite activity.
Mhm.
But here comes Becky, ostensibly to help Bayley up because they've been established as friends. And then bam! Becky literally hits her in the back, stabs her in the back.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because she starts off, she does like the thing. She starts off, she picks Bayley up and hugs her, and then Bayley
Yeah.
starts to walk off. Then she runs after her, grabs her, and yeets her.
Mhm.
And Sasha's immediately like, "Yeah, my girl," and they walk away together,
Yep.
as the villains of the piece. Um,
Becky has seen the light, or the mirror, as it were. She looked.
mhm.
I keep making jokes about this Oculus mirror. I should probably explain that one a little bit because the term Oculus has a completely different context in 2021 than what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So like this is a reference to the movie Oculus it was a horror movie that came out around this time. Karen Gillan was the star of that movie.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and it was like I don't remember the plot exactly, but I do know enough to know that it was basically about like an evil mirror that if you like looked into it, it like caused you to like warp dimensions, and in your place would be like an evil version of yourself. Like there's a bunch of like mind screwy shit. And as it happens, WWE Studios was also one of the like supporting people who made the movie. So like they advertised the movie a lot on TV too. So it kind of became a fan in joke of the Oculus mirror of like people of like in the women's locker room in particular, because like Charlotte's heel turn was predicated on that. I'm pretty sure Sasha's heel turn was also preceded by that happening. And then Becky's heel turn happens because of the conversation in front of the mirror. So the
Yep.
joke is that like literally like they have these meaningful conversations in the mirror and then suddenly they're bad guys now.
That yeah. Uh, um, it's something about it's just a corrupting influence. Maybe there's a ghost in
Yep.
there. Ho,
I don't. I couldn't tell you why, but I think they fixed it. We haven't had any mirror incidents in a few years. I think they fixed whatever went wrong there.
Oh shit. Well, we also had a few weeks ago. We had Mil Muertes looking in the mirror. He's a ghosty boy, kind of.
Oh
Katrina
shit!
showing up. So
Okay, so what you're saying is that Katrina is in the mirror that's in NXT, and that's
yeah,
why
yeah.
everyone goes evil.
And then it got shipped off to the Temple at Boyle Heights. and Gabagoo.
Yeah, they stuck it in the bathroom. There's some cracks in it now. It's fun. We're at it. We're doing some insane continuity across our arcs.
The wrestling, the wrestling expanded universe. Ah!
The WEU.
WE. No. Anyway.
It can't be a cinematic universe because that might be good. It has to be
WWEU.
Oh my God, WWEU! Yes,
no.
That's their Hanna-Barbera cartoon cinematic universe.
God,
all their movies are clearly in the same continuity.
Oh my Christ!
Yes. Well, there's an arc for our show, just reviewing all the Hanna-Barbera cartoon movies.
You know, there are WWF and WWE people that show up at times in Hanna-Barbera stuff, so.
Yeah, but do I
God, are we gonna end up reviewing the fucking Scooby-Doo? But anyway.
I feel like we should at some odds are that we'll hit it. One day I'll just run out of things to talk about and be like, fuck it, we'll just do the Scooby-Doo movie. Give me another week to figure something out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now that we've manifested, we have to. But regardless, so yeah, we have the face or the heel turn of Becky, and
they don't reveal what Sasha and Becky have a team name, and they haven't revealed it yet, and I'm very excited to mention it when we get there. But
yeah, you seemed really hyped for that. I don't know why.
No, I just think the name was really funny at the time. Like, but then it's like no, but then like say the name so I can say it on the podcast.
But yeah, it's so we have kind of our two factions fully solidified now of Becky and Sasha versus Bayley and Charlotte. They haven't stated it yet by this point in our viewing, but it's become pretty obvious of what's kind of about to go down.
Yeah, where the lines are being drawn here.
Yep.
Which that does lead to October 30th, where we get Bayley being interviewed in the locker room by a mysterious person off camera. It's very weird because they never use this style of interview.
So I know. I was kind of confused. But
yeah, I don't know why they decided to do that. But Bayley, she kind of gives a quick like, I've been betrayed by my friend again. But it's okay.
Everyone betrayed me. I fed up with this world.
Yeah, we joked the whole rest of the episode that Charlotte would betray Bayley at some point just because, like, well, that's what happens to Bayley.
Brutus. No.
Bayley, but all her friends are Brutus.
Judas, you would betray me with a hug. God.
Anyway,
somebody please stop me.
No. So we get this interview and Bayley she says all that. And then she's like, well, guess what? Sasha and Becky, they're friends, but I'm bringing my friend. And she's Charlotte. And so, which sets up the November 6th episode where we get Sasha and Becky against Charlotte and Bayley. Another tag team match between the four of them. And it's like, oh, how the turns have tabled now.
Yep.
Because
and stakes are raised too, because it isn't just like random Becky thrown in with Bayley because Becky generically good. Like there is a full
we got a full story here,
which makes it all the more compelling, and they do a good job throughout the match of carrying that story through. We see the new working relationship between Bayley and Charlotte, and again, what's cool about it is Bayley and Charlotte get along. There's no like petty bullshit going on.
There's no tension. They do the smart thing of like there's no tension to that friendship, and that's smart because there's enough tension with the other two, with Sasha and Becky, that you don't really need to also add on this like can they coexist shit.
Yeah, no. And I mean it kind of works too because Bayley as a character is, she's kind of that just happy to be here sort of archetype. And Charlotte is, the legacy, and Bayley for as, much as she's, wanting to hold her own and be her own superstar and whatever, she's still more than happy to defer to Charlotte and coexist with her because she's happy to have her on her side and is still a good team player due to her like really positive personality about things. So Charlotte, so we start off with it's Bayley and Becky in the ring, and what's really cool here is we see Bayley go hard, like really hard. There's some anger behind it. She's pissed off that Becky betrayed her. And again, the cool thing about watching this in the way we are and watching it as NXT specifically is we kind of get to see a development of Bayley throughout this too, where her character, now that she's kind of done doing the protagonist of reality thing, she gets to be a little more developed. Like, yeah, she's the chipper newbie who's happy to be here, yada yada. But she does have a side to her that is that gets emotionally hurt and is willing to be vindictive when betrayed, and stands up for herself in these very pronounced ways. They're a little bold, a little daring. And so we get the really first big hint of that here with Bayley going after Becky the way she does.
Yeah, it's the kind of attitude we didn't get to see. And to be fair, we didn't watch back when this betrayal first happened, so it's hard to judge it. But we didn't get to see this attitude with Charlotte, because that was fully that story. Even though they had history, that story was fully in the about Charlotte not respecting Bayley as a competitor, and Bayley trying to show that she can rise to the challenge while still keeping her chipper optimism. Whereas with Becky, we get to see that her anger at being betrayed that actually affected her. And that was very nice to see, a nice depth of character that her story with Charlotte didn't really necessarily let her see.
Yeah, it's I mean that's a full character arc right there. This is a direct reprisal of something that's happened to her in the past, and she's learned how to deal with it and come more into her own as a character. And I think too it speaks to writing and Bayley as a performer, like out of kayfabe, getting more comfortable with the material and with the character, that they're able to trust her with more than just like the caricature archetype they stick her with to begin with as her like developmental career starts. She's allowed more range, which is exciting. I loved Bayley as just the straight up good guy, soft girl, whatever, but now I'm even more excited by her that she is going to display fuller character traits here. There's more than one side to it, so we get the first taste of that here, and it's very sweet to watch for obvious reasons emotionally. But then Sasha gets in the ring, and kind of like what I was talking about earlier, Charlotte now it's her turn, so she's going, give her to me, and Bayley doesn't try to selfishly clout chase. She happily passes Sasha off to Charlotte because she respects her friend, respects the beef that her friend has with Charlotte, and is a good team player. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah, and I think this match also does a really good job of showing the dynamic that Sasha and Becky work with, of where Sasha is an abject coward and and when possible lets Becky do the hard work.
Yeah, seriously. Because a lot of times we see Sasha trying to duck Charlotte at every turn.
There was something very appropriately Ric Flair-esque in Sasha's ability to just run like a coward whenever anything's going wrong for her, but then be a cocky asshole when everything's going right.
I mean, that's kind of that's really interesting too, is that it's coming from Sasha rather than Charlotte. I mean, it's cool just generally, for as much as they harp on and we harp on Charlotte's legacy as a performer with her dad. She still is allowed
which we say in a much nicer way than they do.
They do, yeah. We're not.
It's a lot less icky.
We're not talking some weird shit. But regardless, for as much as they harp on that, she still gets to be like her own character, an evolution of her father's shtick in a lot of ways. She's not just like this clowning around, showboating, totally bad guy, evil heel who will do any number of awful things just for kicks. Like I said in the front half, she's like lawful neutral. She's cold and she's driven. I don't even want to say cold, but she's calculated and she's driven. And her number one priority is, do things for the advancement of myself and, work within the respect the rules of the tradition of wrestling.
We respect,
and then once I'm taken care of, if there are people outside of me that want help, yeah, sure, I can see myself to that, I guess, too.
And the match it ends with Sasha pulling the tights to get the dub. We're gonna see that a lot for the next few of these matches.
Yeah, no.
They really hammer home how much Sasha and Becky are a bunch of evil cheaters because they pull the tights for like 3 wins.
Yeah. And another thing that's cool here is like toward the end of the match, Sasha's really overpowering Bayley, and Charlotte's calling out for Bayley, reach out, and Bayley's not doing it pretty clearly because like she's not in a position to. You see her trying. At one point, she does manage to get an upper hand on Sasha, and at that point, she is abjectly not reaching out, but that's just because she thought she could get the dub. Yeah. But then they do a reversal. Becky comes flying and knocks her out, and then knocks Charlotte out too. And it's right back to Sasha dominating, and they're not able to do the switch out. But it doesn't ever pay off into Charlotte being pissed off, like, why didn't you tag me out, bro? So again, nice touch. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Charlotte gets it. Heat of the match. Thought you had it. It's fine. It happens.
Yeah.
Then after that, we get the November 13th episode where Sasha fights Alexa Bliss. Kind of all a bit of just a established Sasha moment where we're really going to see her be vicious and mean to Alexa. Like she's just bullying her in the ring there.
Yeah, I know. It's a much different tone than Bayley versus Alexa earlier.
Yeah. And at some point, Alexa's actually like, I don't think she broke her nose, but she gets hit hard enough that she starts bleeding.
Yep.
Right near the end.
Hey, we finally got Hardaway bleeding here.
Yeah, and chat and the crowd was just going EC dub, chanting for good old East Extreme Championship Wrestling. But
that's so goofy. This fucking crowd, dude.
Yeah, this crowd, it was wild. Like there were so many times. There were some times where like I couldn't tell what they were chanting, but I'm pretty sure half of it was them just chanting random bullshit happening in the crowd.
Yeah.
The NXT Full Sail crowd has always been a lively bunch, and that usually works to their benefit. But at the same time, they're also really happy to chant for anything going on in the crowd at the time. They're okay with doing that.
Well, because well, think about it. If you're going to see NXT live, you're bigger into the culture. You're more of a straight up wrestling buff, which means you're gonna be more lively about it. But it also means you're gonna be you're able to recognize how much of a meme it is, and like you're more comfortable playing up just random bullshit just for the hell of it. So it makes perfect sense that the crowd's just gonna be dumb about it sometimes.
There's a reason Full Sail has a very polarizing reputation.
I love it. I love it personally. I'm here for it. I
enjoy it. But then after the match, Sasha like throws a little shade at Alexa, being like, "Oh, you okay? Gonna cry?" By the way,
very Brody Lee-esque for some reason.
is Beck? You gonna cry?
You bitch.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, is it Becky Lynch? To her credit, she really goes hard at this heel shtick now that she's in it. Mm-hmm. Like she's jaw jacking just as much as Sasha is, even though Sasha's the one who gets the focus.
Yeah.
But Sasha formally challenges Charlotte for the NXT Women's title, and so it's pretty much we're all systems go, so to speak.
It is on.
Yep. But then November 20th, we get Becky and Bayley in a match that is kind of there to kind of reestablish Becky, like what she looked like as a heel, in the ring, like as a one-on-one kind of act, as opposed to being in a tag team with Charlotte. And it's a good match. And then, but Becky done pulled the tights, and Bayley loses again.
Yeah, they keep getting away with this cheating shit. The rest don't seem to be catching on. I also love like when commentators catch it, but like it's still not an issue because like it implies either like the commentators aren't allowed to like snitch, or they're not, or like there's just some unspoken rule around commentators like hey, we ain't no snitches, all right.
Mm-hmm. It comes under that idea of like, why isn't there instant replay in wrestling? And the correct answer is, of course, if you did that, then no one could cheat.
Yeah. Why isn't there?
And that takes away from the purpose of a heel.
Why isn't there instant replay in wrestling? Shut up. That's why. Because
it's one thing to be like the heel's got to be able to be creative in cheating so the referee doesn't see them. Okay, that's fine if you're going to talk about like cheating that still makes sense. But like instant replay, you ruin the whole thing because then they would never get away with it. And so then it's like, welp, like, how are you like it's kind of like the go-to way to establish like good guys and bad guys. So you're handicapping yourself unnecessarily for no reason. It's a fake sport. Who cares? Though I will say that one time WWE, like on pay-per-view, they did a match and they had an instant replay and they never did it again. And I'm like, why did you do it for this one match? Why? Like, it's so confusing. I don't remember when it happened exactly, but it happened and it was the most like, what the fuck moment.
This one was a wild one from start to finish, but but yeah, that fucking cheating dove.
But then Becky and Sasha are about to be like, well, time to 2-on-1 this one.
Yeah.
And then Charlotte comes to the rescue and fends them off. And then we get the backstage segment with Charlotte and Bayley, excuse me, where Charlotte I think she's unlacing her boots. I would assume she's not lacing them up because she would have already had them laced. But Bayley comes to thank her, and Charlotte is like, "Listen, Bayley, I'm not going to be here next week." She doesn't say why. I don't know why. Why is the women's champion not going to be here? Who knows? Not important. Shut up. Yeah. She's like, listen, not going to be here. I know Sasha. She's dangerous. Whatever you do, don't try to fight her next week because I'm not going to be there to help you. And she insists that Bayley look her in the eyes and say that she won't do it, which of course Bayley doesn't do, which should be a sign to how this goes. Bayley doesn't even attempt to look Charlotte in the eye while Charlotte's talking to her. But Bayley's like, okay, I won't. Okay, it's fine. And then like and then we get the hug. Like, he's like, come on, hug. And Charlotte's like,
it was for a second, it felt very much like the Voldemort Malfoy hug again, that awkwardness.
Yeah, I see that. But then, but Charlotte does reciprocate the hug, and we move on to the November 27th episode, where Bayley comes out, and she does not have a match. She even says so, and the crowd boos this real hard. She's like, I don't have a match. The boo.
Yeah, the crowd really loves Bayley, but then she's like, I'm not gonna fight. They're like, hey, how fucking dare you?
Hey, whoa.
More blood for Blood God.
Yeah. I do love how like very like, especially because this takes place in like such a post John Cena world of like this kind of, it'd be super easy for the crowd to be like shitheads about such a like an idealist goody two shoes character, but they are all in on Bayley and on the opposite effect. And I appreciate that.
I know, it's so nice.
Yeah. So Bayley instead tells this story about how she's dealt with bullies like Sasha and Becky all her life, but her mom told her that you have to stand up and keep your head up high because bullies are just cowards. And so tonight, she's here to tell Sasha and Becky that they're cowards and she's not backing down. Which it's super funny because of how much that's such like a cliche platitude to tell like a child about like how to deal with bullies, like the idea like they're all cowards and all you have to do is stand up for yourself and they'll go away, that kind of thing. And then they're like, fuck no. Sasha and Becky show up and like Bayley tries, but then they immediately wreck the fuck out of her.
Yeah, like just 2-on-1 stomp. They need the medical examiner and several refs. Oh no.
Yeah, like absolutely crush her. So as me who loves destroying cliched platitudes because I'm just a dick. You know.
Hey, no, I'm right there with you, buddy. It was very
funny that she gives these platitudes and they immediately like are like, LOL, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah. Hey, fuck you.
Yeah. So then we get the second to last match. The December 4th episode is with Charlotte and Mia Yim. They don't even try to they try to not call it a jobber match, but because they say things like this is a tune-up match, a warm-up match for Charlotte going into TakeOver.
It's a layup.
Yeah, it's like, this is okay. This is what this is like, huh? And it goes like 2 minutes. Charlotte instantly wins.
Yeah,
pretty much. But then
lights out. Night.
Oof. But then Sasha comes out to talk some shit. She's wearing her custom Charlotte shirt that, Charlotte has a t-shirt that says, if you're going to do it. And on the back, it says, do it with flair. Sasha's wearing this shirt, but instead on the back, it says, do it like a boss. And I was like, oh. One of Sasha's best heel traits is her tendency to explicitly mock and satire her opponent's moves and mannerisms.
Yeah. She loves mocking people. And it's cool because like it's on one hand very childish, but on the other, like there is something like intimidating about it with her because she's able to actually back that shit up.
Yeah, she's doing your moves to you, and you can't really stop her from doing that.
Yep, it's a cool little touch.
Yeah, so she goes off on Charlotte and is like, "Why don't you just give me that belt right now?" And Sasha does a lot of basic insults of like, "Oh yeah, you do it with flair, right? Well, I got more flair than you or your dad."
Yeah.
And Charlotte refuses to acknowledge that, and I was going to comment on that of how I get that they're not great insults, but it does feel a little too close to the John Cena syndrome for my personal liking. But then you get to the back half of the segment, and I'm okay with it, where as Bayley comes out on a crutch. And she's like, if you won't say it, Charlotte won't say it, but I will. Is you need to shut your stupid ratchet mouth and get out of here. Okay, well, first of all, Bayley, I don't know why you think Charlotte wouldn't say that. She's led the crowd in like ratchet chants at least twice. I don't know why you think Charlotte would be above that, but it was a fun moment. I thought it was a fun moment for Bayley to kind of like be a little meaner than she usually is.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about with fleshing out Bayley's character, right? Is that it's not just letting her usual shtick get stale. She is responding to the circumstances around her and growing with them. And it allows for a little more edge to her character to keep things interesting. And I like what you said about the John Cena thing too, and it ties in earlier to why the crowd is so big on Bayley, even though she's like, a John Cena-esque goody two-shoes. And I can't fully speak to the difference earlier on when Bayley was just like the straight up, just chipper, happy to be here sort of thing. Probably because you didn't have like it was really earnest and it didn't have like the smug hypocrite side to it that Cena does of like he's the top dog and he thinks he's better than everybody else and yada yada. like Bayley is sweet and unassuming, so the crowd's like more enchanted by her than Cena, who's not that, but still acts like a righteous whatever. But what I like what you said there about Charlotte not falling into the John Cena syndrome, and I think what helps here is it's gonna sound really stupid, but the Charlotte and Bayley together each have a half of them that together makes up one whole John Cena. And that, well, because think about it, Bayley has like that chipper, go get him. I'm putting in the work and I'm gonna be the best attitude about her. And Charlotte has the I am the best. I'm high and mighty. I'm better than you. And I'm gonna be smug about that shit. Attitude toward her. And you put those two traits together and you come out with John Cena. And it can be really fucking insufferable, like we've talked about. But you separate them out and you instead mix them in for Charlotte with the more neutral, calculating, honestly, you're being honest about the fact that she's just driven to her own success, and it's not some like weird Boy Scout persona thrown on top of that to try to mask it. She's honest about her intentions. And then with Bayley, you have that kind of pure happiness, but it's got a green edge to it, where she can get emotionally invested since she's so new to this, and things can still really get to her that don't get to her quite as, or her much more experienced colleague. So together, those traits can make up a very annoying John Cena, but separated out and mixed in with some other stuff, they're good and compelling traits to have. So it avoids John Cena syndrome by taking John Cena, throwing him in a blender with a couple other character traits, and coming out with two different wrestlers.
Yeah. But I was going to say is about what I was referring to with Charlotte is as I complain about constantly is John Cena not reacting when heels do stuff to him, say stuff to him. And how I think that undermines what the bad guy's trying to say. And Charlotte gets a little bit of that here, is that she kind of doesn't react at all. She spends the entire time just kind of mocking Sasha while she's running her down. But the reason why I think it works here is because it works for the exact same reason. I said it worked when we were talking about Cena and Punk saying like, you're the New York Yankees, is if you need to give her something that gets a reaction. And that creates a more compelling character. It's not that Charlotte is just above it all, who knows she's the best, so she doesn't really care. She just sees the insults as childish. But and what happens is Sasha's like, "Wow, okay, Bayley got some balls, huh?" And her response to this is then kick Bayley's crutch out of her hands, and then just start laying into her again. And that's what gets to Charlotte. Petty insults about her and her family, whatever. I don't care. I know I'm better than you. What does it matter?
She knows how to play the game.
Yeah, but attack my friend who is injured because of you? Yeah, hell no. That's where I'm coming for you now.
Well, that's that's what's nice about it too, is that Charlotte doesn't turn her back on Bayley because Bayley didn't listen to her. I thought they were going to go that angle of.
I did appreciate that too.
Of course, Bayley still calls Sasha out and ends up getting hurt for it. And I thought they might run with an angle of Sasha being like, "Well, fine, you didn't listen, so you got what you deserve. Fuck you. I can't trust you," or something like that. But you think about her character, and it kind of makes sense that she's not going to turn her back on Bayley for that, because again, she knows how to play the game, and in a way,
she knows Bayley. She knew that Bayley.
She knows Bayley. Well, and she knows, since she's so familiar with the game, she knows like she's got to know, like, when you're young like that, it's got to be it's an instinct, and you learn better. And I think it helps too that. I mean, not to say that Charlotte's at all reveling in Bayley's getting hurt here, but I could definitely see it being the case that Charlotte, off screen, it's assuming that, kayfabe, whatever. But Charlotte, supposedly off screen, kind of pulling Bayley aside and being like, "Okay, you see, you got hurt. Did you learn your lesson, dum dum? Yes. Okay, good. Now let's go out there and not make that mistake again." Sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't run that angle, and I think it still stays consistent with their character that they didn't.
But then when Charlotte comes running for Sasha, Sasha runs off, but Charlotte continues on. And eventually, Charlotte grabs Sasha and throws her over her shoulder and is yelling like, "Get me a ref! Get a ref out here!"
Yep.
She's doing this ass beating right now.
It was so good.
No, it was great. And Sasha, classic Sasha, just begging now. I love especially because so much of the motif with Charlotte and Bayley was about a handshake. I love how often Sasha, when she's begging for Charlotte to not attack her, she tries to offer a handshake.
Yeah, I know.
She's like a sportsman, like, we're in a sportsmanship, right? It's like,
yeah, no. Yep. No, bitch.
Nah, fuck you. But Becky comes to stop Sasha from just getting murked, right? Pretty sure that happened.
I think that's how it plays out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know what happens. Is Becky runs out. Charlotte murks Becky, but that gives Sasha time to hit the backstabber. I believe they're calling it the bankrupt.
Oh yeah.
Now we get to see her like signature maneuver now. Is this kind of developed into like the backstabber into the crossface, aka the bank statement. Such good.
I love those names. Work. They're all just so.
I do. I love them.
No.
But yep. Sticking to the shtick.
But yeah.
But anyway,
they knock Charlotte down, right? Yep.
Yeah, they do. They knock her down, and then Sasha picks up the belt and poses with it. And so now we get to NXT TakeOver Our Evolution, December 11th. And first off, I want to say I appreciate that for as much like chicanery and bullshits that's gone on in the build-up, that they kept the match straightforward.
Yes.
Between the two.
I
that was like much to that benefit.
And again, I think, for as much chicanery and bullshit as there's been, it does kind of stay consistent with their characters because at the end of the day, Sasha wants to prove herself individually, legitimately, just as much as Charlotte or Bayley or to a lesser extent Becky does.
We'll get to our match, and what a match that was.
Yeah, no, I don't think for me it didn't quite rise to the heights of the first Bayley versus Charlotte, or was it the second Bayley versus Charlotte? No, Bayley versus Charlotte.
Yeah, we've only seen them. Yeah, we've only the first one. The second one was the one we watched this time.
Yeah. So for me, it didn't quite reach the heights of the first Bayley versus Charlotte personally, but it was still really good. It was still really good to see now that we've developed Sasha's storyline further and created, as I've been calling her, the arch heel to face off against Charlotte as the like stalwart upholder of tradition, lineage, whatever. It was nice to see the two of them finally get to fight it out in this really official capacity after the entirety of their arc thus far.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Like they have not gotten to wrestle each other one-on-one since the BFFs broke up in like would have been like May at this point.
Yeah.
So we're talking like 7 months in real time.
Yeah, they've been
not going one-on-one.
Really circling each other. And again, the times where Charlotte attempts to engage with her, Sasha runs. So here, I guess Sasha's finally like, all right, I'm done running. It's time to prove myself.
Or more accurately, she can't run because if she did run, then she'd lose the title. So lose out on the title. So I guess I have to be straight up.
And I mean that helps. I think that helps with the characterization because there's a certain like desperate energy to this fight with Sasha. I mean, Charlotte kind of has a consistent ring presence, where she can get knocked around and be worried about her prospects at certain points. We see those flashes for her on those face, and I like seeing those flashes because it makes her feel more human. than just like the legendary Ric Flair's daughter. But Sasha here kind of gets to develop this desperate fight for here's my chance. This is my one chance. I don't want to like fuck it up. So it makes her go harder, and there's a certain speed and fervor with which she moves that really communicates that she's just trying to throw everything at the wall to take this woman down.
Mm-hmm. This was really Sasha's coming out party. If you look at the historical context of it, this is the match to put her on the map. It's like, oh, she's like one of the best.
Yeah.
And that's the reputation she's held for her entire career up to this point. But like, she is just going all out, and you get to see both sides of Sasha, you get to see the mocking side of Sasha. I'm pretty sure she did all of Charlotte Flair's moves that weren't the natural selection or the figure four. I know she did. No, she didn't do a figure four. But like, she did everything else. Like she did the Flair strut. She's doing the woo. She does the chops. She does the thing where Charlotte head scissors you with her head, and then forces your head into the canvas. Like, I can't think of.
Wait, hold up! I just realized something that should have been so fucking obvious.
What?
The thing of Sasha mocking her opponent's moves.
Yeah,
that's the mirror motif.
She is the truest of mirrors.
Fuck. Wait, no, that's actually kind of profound. Because I mean, look at her character, and look at the way they talk about her, and look at how they do like the mirror motif stuff. Now personally, this is actually like a small thing I take issue with, just because I don't like character beats being framed in this way a lot of the time. But the way they talk about Sasha a lot, especially this time around for all the episode bits we watched, they talk about how like she poisoned Becky's mind, and she is she's like this. She's played very much as this like corrupting influence, and I guess all of that taken into account and mixed in with the visual motifs of not only the mirror but how she will mock her opponents and mock their moves and stuff. It feels like this very cool, subtle way of saying that Sasha Banks brings out the worst in everybody around her, herself included. As with each match, she gets more and more aggressive, more and more desperate, more and more evil. And thus her moveset kind of becomes a more vicious caricature of itself.
Which, yes, it does. So a good time to bring up is this is the first time she does the move, one of her classic signature moves now, where she sets Charlotte on the middle rope, across the middle rope, and then just double knees her straight in the gut, which knocks Charlotte off the middle turnbuckle as well.
Yep.
Like, that's like Sasha's most vicious move, and this was like the first time we've gotten to see her do it.
So yeah, they've been building this up, and I like just stumbling upon this now. But yeah, that's what Sasha is. She is that the ghost in the mirror in a way. That reflection that stares you down and taunts you and brings out the worst in you because of what it makes you see on the other side of that mirror.
Give me a couple weeks, and I'll figure out a way for Sasha to be an evil mirror version of all three of the other horsewomen. Give me a minute. Give me a few weeks.
Yeah, leave it to the DC Comics nerd to fuck with multiverse like that.
Speaking of the DC Comics nerd, before we went deep enough into this, I was about to say. So what you're saying is that Sasha is Mirror Master.
No, I don't even know who the fuck that is. I just know it's goddamn.
How dare you!
I don't know these things. I'm not the DC Comics nerd here.
One of the Flash's rogues. One of his greatest enemies.
I literally only know Captain Golden Glider. That's all I know.
Yeah, he's Mirror Master. It's one of the other rogues. Then that takes away my other joke where I was going to call Becky Lynch Top, because that's the Mirror Master's assistant.
Oh my god. Regardless,
she bangs her head in almost in a circular motion, like a top.
Nope.
This is perfect. We have worked our way into this.
I refuse to believe that Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch's relationship are a deep cut reference to Mirror Master and Top. I fucking refuse to believe it.
No, they didn't. They would never have thought this deeply into it. They didn't even think that deeply into the mirror part. But I'm putting it in.
Evidently they did because it's, again, no pun intended, perfectly reflective of how she treats people in ring. So evidently they did. What?
Sasha is truly the master of the mirrors. I'm gonna call her mirror.
Every goddamn time wrestling uses metaphor, it shouldn't. I should stop having my mind blown by this. But like, the bar is usually so goddamn low that when it just like shoots up to things you can actually like analyze and like dig deep into as subtext, I'm just like, oh shit, this is pinnacle writing. Oh, I don't know how to handle this.
It's amazing. Okay. How are the other rogues fit into this? Let's see. If Charlotte was heel, she could be Captain Cold. I feel like that works really well in a lot of directions. Heat wave. It's not really. I will come up with this. The Flash's Rogues Gallery, but as NXT women. NXT women as the Rogues.
The four horsewomen or the Rogues. You decide.
Hey. Anyway, where were we? Sasha mocking Charlotte the whole time, but at the same time, yes, also being increasingly aggressive and desperate.
Yep.
As she is clinging to her hopes that she's going to beat Charlotte. And I think you make a good point of like Charlotte being like a kind of a consistent presence, which works well to Sasha kind of being so manic in comparison.
Yeah. But I will also say this. I was convinced for a majority of this that Sasha was going to pick up the dub. Because the consistent presence doesn't always mean like coded victorious. And the manic doesn't always mean coded loser to me. I thought they were going to roll with a thing where with Sasha's like increasing aggressiveness and her increasing drive to get this title and everything, that she could very well pick it up and rise up even further, maniacally laughing all the way as she just slips further and further into power hungry whatever. But she does end up losing to Charlotte. Charlotte does end up retaining. Which came as a surprise to me, and I'm interested to see what angle they play from here, because it seems like it'd almost be trite to just try to do another. Well, Sasha's still like gunning for title and still getting angrier and angrier and crazier about it. But as we've established earlier in this episode, they're treating this whole four horsewomen thing as an ensemble piece. Makes me feel like they're going to find an interesting new angle to take this with after the fact. Like this loss will probably still have a negative effect on Sasha's psyche, don't get me wrong. But I do feel like there's going to be some another new angle to this now that this story part has kind of played itself out. You're giving me a look like that's not the case.
Oh no, I'm sorry. My look, I'm just thinking of like, I wish I could comment.
You wish you could comment?
Because I do know where. Because I know where this goes.
That's your I know where this goes face. But since you're not like poker facing it, and you're kind of going like, I don't know if that's the I wish I could say something face or the oh no you're very wrong face, and I wish I could tell you. So I don't know.
I guess you'll have to find out in a few weeks. Yeah, let's find out what I meant. I want to also say is that like this is I want to talk like I guess as kind of before we kind of wrap up a little bit is kind of as the development is the continued evolution of Sasha's relationship with the crowd. I mentioned going in that we have to deal with the issue of like the kind of racist Sasha's ratchet chants that were big on, that were a big they're a big function of her character. And the crowd does it, and the baby faces call her ratchet too.
Yeah, I was gonna say Bayley leans into it.
But yeah, Charlotte leads ratchet chants. It's not great, to be honest, but I do find it fascinating the way that evolves in the crowd. And we've seen parts of that in that, like, it used to be it was only the Sasha's ratchet chant, but we have seen increasingly loud "No, she's not" chants. And I mentioned while we were watching the takeover match, this was the first time that the crowd chanted for Sasha. Mm-hmm. Like, after Sasha did the double knee move, immediately the crowd started going Sasha Banks, Sasha Banks. And from the rest of the match, it wasn't them chanting for Charlotte. It was them chanting it was dueling chants for both of them.
Yeah.
And so I would say that this is a turning point, a major turning point in how the crowd reacts to Sasha Banks, as it kind of becomes like everyone starts appreciating how really good she is. Mm-hmm. And so we lean away from the ratchet chants.
And I definitely appreciate that. Mm-hmm. It's, again, we were talking earlier about the crowd. It is nice to know that they go through their own sort of character development here, mm-hmm. In response to Sasha. And, I don't want it to be that it's like, oh, Sasha just got so good they couldn't, like, help but stop the racism anymore. Mm-hmm. But it is nice that she does start to garner that sort of respect in the crowd.
Yeah,
it's good to see.
Yeah, and also we got the chant of "This is wrestling," which I told to David that's such a throwback of, like, I believe I think they might have chanted women's wrestling too, but I might just be misremembering that. But, like, that is such a typical chant for this point. It's such a chant that that defines this particular era of history in a way that not many chants do, because most chants are kind of evergreen. They're kind of always applicable. Like, they're either applicable to a specific character or they're always applicable to almost any situation that's appropriate. But, like, This is wrestling is so indicative of this late era Divas era, because because they only did it about women's wrestling, because this was about, those chants were about saying, this is legit. This is what we want. This is women's wrestling, not the Divas stuff we see on Raw and SmackDown every week. Yeah. And, like, that's really cool to remember, to kind of reminisce and remember those eras where, like, this is wrestling were relatively common among pretty much any good women's wrestling match that WWE had at the time. And now they don't exist anymore because they're not necessary. Like, at this point, the women's wrestling being good, or at least, like, not complete ass in comparison to men's wrestling, is a given. So, like, you don't need to chant "This is wrestling." Like, you don't need to send that message to the company anymore. And so that was really cool to remember what that was like in that time period, in this very specific time period where that chant is appropriate.
Yeah, that's an interesting nostalgia trip, because what makes it so cool is, like, the fact that it no longer exists. Like, the fact that it's nostalgic because it no longer exists is, like, the triumphant part of it. That's definitely awesome. I talked about this the last time we did NXT. It is so bewildering to me that they were able to get the 4 Horsewomen up on NXT, because when you compare it to what was on main WWE at that same time, it's night and goddamn day. So the fact that we get to see this very distinct contrast, the fact that this is wrestling, I don't know how they got to do it when the main stuff was so pointedly horrible. But I will forever be grateful that, yes, this is wrestling.
Yep. And, on the main roster at this point in time, of course, when you have people like Paige or Emma having parts now, like, obviously, like, the in-ring stuff is getting better, but, like, it still has that, like, structural issue of, like, what's it like narratively to do a Divas storyline. That hasn't changed in late 2014, but like we're getting there.
Oh,
and
so
that's
exciting.
that's so fun to do. But to kind of wrap this up on where we're at, where in this kind of story, for this story beat, is I feel like my takeaway from this episode was kind of like it was really building up Sasha and Becky in the way that our last one built up at least in our eyes for our little journey here, built up Charlotte and Bayley.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was the one to kind of help. I keep talking about like full characters becoming more fully realized and the best versions of themselves in this very kind of this kind of narrative structure that comes from NXT as purpose. And it's like Bayley and Charlotte, technically not their best versions of themselves in some senses, but like they're basically there where they're gonna be as characters.
Yeah.
And this is Becky and Sasha just by leaning all the hell the way in on being the bad guy, and Bayley and Becky coming along for the ride and becoming like mosh pit rocker chick are there on this was their come up, and to kind of help build them as top level players too.
We can now fully see both sides of the coin. And from here on out, we get to have the fun of just flipping it constantly and see which side it lands on.
Yep. But that is for next time.
Indeed.
And yes. And what will we watch next time? Ho ho! Our first movie review, folks.
Because God.
I have determined that what our next arc must in fact be Hulk Hogan versus the villain from No Holds Barred in a real wrestling match. So the only way that this storyline will make any sort of sense is, of course, we must watch No Holds Barred. Hulk Hogan's magnum opus, if I may be so bold as to claim that.
I have to say, I don't know what sort of diabolical shit you have planned, because you are touting this as the way you are finally going to get me to understand the appeal of the Golden Age, and we're starting off with a shitty Hulk Hogan movie. So I don't know, like, what bullshit you have in store that you think it's still going to be effective for leading off with this crap, but I'm in for the ride at this point, so I guess.
Indeed. So, David, hit our plugs, please.
Yes, sir. All right. My friends, my dear, dear, delightful friends, thank you all so much for joining us once again here on the Noobs and Knockouts podcast. If you are a returning listener, viewer, what have you, thank you so much for once again allowing us back into your eardrum. We are honored to be with you, honored that you're spending the time with us, and we hope you continue to do so. If you are brand new to the podcast, welcome. We are delighted to have you. We welcome both noobs and knockouts alike here on this podcast, and so we hope you've had fun, whichever you may be, and we hope you will continue to join us as well. If you would like to continue to join us and you're not entirely sure how to do so, not to worry, my friends. I will tell you right now. First of all, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. We are the Noobs and Knockouts podcast. Hit subscribe, ring that bell, turn it a nice little solid color so that you get notifications every time we drop new content. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Add us to your playlist. Check out our playlist. Austin has been so kind as to organize each arc that we follow into their own distinct YouTube playlist. It is phenomenal. Check it out. Nice and organized. Good stuff all around. You can also find us on our on three of the best places to get your podcasts. Purely audibly. Audibly? I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I think audibly was the correct term.
Yeah, what have you? Those
Get
would be
in your ears.
Yes, in your ears, regardless of the adverb. Fuck.
Look at the adjective.
No, I did the adjective mean. Regardless.
Ears. Look at the adjective ears.
Spotify, Apple, and Google. Check us out on 1, 2, or all 3 if you like. Follow us. give us downloads, give us likes, give us ratings, anything to tell those algorithms that we're super cool dudes and that more people should be listening to us, because they really should. Let's be real, guys. Come on. I mean, seriously. You can also find us on our social media. On Twitter, we are at Noobs and Knox Pod. That's Noobs, the letter N, Knox Pod. Down here, bada
Correct.
boom. If you're on YouTube, I'm gonna get this eventually. Turn the
Close
finger
enough.
this way.
Good enough.
Close enough. Whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless, Austin's the one above it. He does the legwork.
Yeah, I feel like it's more important than I get it.
I'm just the voice. So be sure to check us out there. We tweet out some dank memes. We interact with the broader wrestling fandom. We like to post every time our episodes drop. And of course, the highlight of the Noobs and Knockouts Twitter is Austin live tweeting his wrestling watching. My friend, what is on the docket coming up this week?
All right. So coming up this week is the last of AEW's the Welcome Back tour that is started with Road Rage, Fyter Fest nights 1 and 2, and then Fight for the Fallen. And we don't have any matches for that card yet. I'm taping this before Dynamite on Wednesday, so I can't tell. I'm taping this before Fyter Fest night 2, so I'm afraid that I can't tell you what the matches are. But I can say that a heavily rumored match for the Fight for the Fallen may in fact be a 5-on-5 elimination match, The Dark Order and Hangman Page against Kenny Omega and the Elite. And if Hangman wins, Hangman and the Dark Order win, Hangman Page gets a shot at Kenny Omega's AEW title, and the Dark Order gets a shot at the Young Bucks tag titles. So we don't have a confirmed date for that match yet, but we know that it's happening, and Fight for the Fallen seems like a really obvious spot for it. So be on the lookout for that. I will, when I know what date it is, and if we're taping it correctly that I can advertise for it, I will. Meanwhile, because AEW Dynamite is again Wednesdays on TNT, 8 p.m. Eastern. I do follow WWE and Impact as well on I don't watch live weekly, so we don't live tweet them, but we do live tweet all their pay-per-views. And I guess right now it's not really a good time to pitch pay-per-views because AEW's next pay-per-view is in September, so they don't have any matches for that yet. And just this past weekend, we got Slammiversary for Impact Wrestling and Money in the Bank for WWE. So there is like no pay-per-view matches to really shill right now.
Yay, saving money.
Yes. I will say though, fantastic shows, both of them.
Outstanding.
Impact Wrestling.
Peacock shitting out.
Yes, fuck Peacock.
Fuck Peacock.
Yeah, so Slammiversary, Impact Wrestling is settling into this role of like, what if we are Switzerland of wrestling. Anybody from any company can come in here and have matches. Like they're like the nexus point of crossover events. And so that's kind of exciting in its own way. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on Impact right now as they're crossing over with AAA in Mexico and AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling and the NWA. And a little bit of Ring of Honor. There's room for them in this party too. So that shit is lit. Meanwhile, WWE Money in the Bank, again, great show. I have some complaints. My biggest one is definitely the fact that Peacock shitted out for about 10 minutes there. And I wasn't sure if I was going to get to watch the rest of the live pay-per-view. And it was on the second to last match, the matches that they were the matches that you really wanted to see. And they were like, time to stop working. Good times. Fuck Peacock and fuck the WWE for not letting us use VPNs on the network anymore.
Fuck WWE.
Piece of shit. I hope you enjoy your $1 billion.
I'm sorry, WWE. We don't hate you. Please love us.
I'm not going to beg.
Look, I'm just saying, if we get big enough, we don't want the WWE people looking back on this and being like, wow, they're really mean to us.
Wow, these guys are a bunch of idiots. Anyway, Anyway, but do be on the lookout for in the coming weeks where I will talk more about when Impact's next pay-per-view is Bound for Glory in October. AEW has All Out in September. WWE has SummerSlam next month in August. So like soon there will be matches that I can talk about for future pay-per-views. But for now there is none, so it's like, well, not going to bother.
But yeah, so be sure to check all of that out. Austin's live tweeting is awesome. He's very diligent about it. He tweets out some great stuff, great insights, great memes, rants where appropriate, all that good stuff. Be sure to check it out. It is awesome. You can also email us. We have a Gmail account, noobs and knockoutspod at gmail.com. That's noobs, the word and this time, knockoutspod at gmail.com. Shoot us an email, say hi, tell us what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, what you'd like to see more of on the show, request episodes and arcs and all that stuff. Tell us just how lovely you think our voices are, all that sort of good stuff. We just love hearing from people. If you say hi, we'd love to say hi back. So hit us up at that as well. And finally, we have a Patreon. You can subscribe to our Patreon. We are the Noobs and Knockouts podcast on Patreon. $1 a month gets you early access to episodes and a shout out at the end of each episode.
See y'all next time.
Hasta luego.